Alright guys, welcome to another video. Today I'm going to be covering one of my most frequently asked questions on the channel, in the comment section, on Discord and even in-game. What is the UI that I use when I play Endless WoW? And furthermore, what add-ons do I use? So, to be honest, the main add-on I use pretty much kills about 20 birds with one stone, to be honest, and it's called Pfui. With Pfui, you don't need a Uni Frame add-on, you don't need Bartender, you don't need Grid, you don't need a lot really because it's a massive overhaul UI and it's essentially very similar to ElvUI but a little bit different, a little bit better in my opinion, because I use ElvUI on a Wrath of the Lich King server and I don't like it as much. So I thought I'd make a video talking about Pfui, a few other add-ons that I do use which are really useful as well, and how to just change the Pfui settings a little bit to actually make them really useful in a raiding and, dungeon environment. So after the remainder of the video flying in the air because some people are trying to gank me, so let me show off Pfui, what it is and what it looks like, and some of the main features. First of all, obviously you've got the Uni Frames, which are like this. You've got kind of like a 3D portrait in the background, look quite snazzy, and they're automatically set up like this, so the Uni Frames are like close to your action bars, which means you don't have to look at various different locations on the screen. Everything's in like one place, which is much better for raiding in my opinion. Another really big feature of this add-on is how you have the Recount, like the damage meter, which is Recount, and the threat meter kind of integrated into the interface very nicely. If I press this arrow, it switches between a loot and spam menu, which is, I mainly just use this for loot, to be honest, track of loot and rolls and stuff like that. And I press this arrow and I've got threat meters and DPS meters integrated. I don't have to, mess about moving Recount around to compensate for other things that I've made in the UI. So that is really nice. You notice on this screen there is some tabs you can click. If I click this is my social tab. I can move to it automatically goes to the guild first, but obviously I can move that around. We've got the character paint on the armor thing here, which obviously shows me the degradation, can't say that word, of my armor. And then obviously I have my friend menu here, so that's very easy to access. The action bars are quite nice. They have a really easy key binding menu. If we go to Pfui on the main menu here, just press hover bind. I can hover bind all of my things like that, pretty straightforward. Another cool thing is where the experience bar is located. It's located on the left here. Obviously I don't need experience anymore as I'm level 70. So what it will do is, this is the default rep bar. So I've set the Shatar rep to be there. But whenever I earn rep, say I'm doing like Shadow Labs or something, I get a bit of lower city rep, it will automatically appear on this bar where the blue bar is. So that's like your most recent rep gain displayed as a bar. So you can just keep track of 2 reps at once. So rather than, I've just gained, sometimes you gain rep from a quest or killing a mob, you're like, I haven't grinded that rep out yet, I wonder how far I need to do it. Or you don't need to go into your character menu or anything, because it's automatically telling you straight away. So I do like that about the add-on as well. Here we have the settings menu, and as you can see it is very extensive and very customizable. I have absolutely disabled the minimap. You can disable certain modules here. If you look, if I scroll down, I've disabled the minimap. I can't remember what issue I was having, but I was having some kind of issue, and so I don't have the actual minimap. There's a number of modules that you can simply totally remove. If you don't like the unit frames or you don't like the action bars, you prefer to use Bartender, you can just disable any part of the add-on that you want and replace it with a different add-on, or if you prefer the default bloated UI on a certain area like the raid frames or something like that. So when you first launch this add-on, you will notice that there's a bit of a setup menu that you have to go through. So I'm going to make a new character and talk you through it right now, because the settings can, once you load the add-on and you use it for the first time, it can be a little bit overwhelming, and to be honest it's not. It just kind of appears overwhelming. I'm going to talk you through it just to reveal how simple it really is. So here's the menu, and you just click next. This is where you kind of decide what skin you want, so I'd recommend clicking a few of them to make sure which one you want. I don't like the dark one that much. I don't really know which one I actually have. If I go back to my menu, I think if you pick class, or maybe not, maybe that's for LVY, but you pick whichever one you want and then you press next. Press next here, so optimize game settings. The loot and spam menu, to be honest I don't actually need this, so I probably would actually disable it just to keep it for Recount and the threat meter. And align the chat windows, press next. that just kind of scales everything a bit differently, and there you go, you're done. You can actually change the scale of this UI. There is a setting somewhere where I'm going to find it now. So just here you enable UI scale, and you can actually change the scale, because obviously people have different shaped monitors. A lot of the time when I decide, I enable these add-ons, it's way too small, like it's a bit too small like this, so you will need to change it slightly so that the action frames are bigger. Because in my experience, when I first downloaded this add-on, my action bars were way too small, so I had to like go into the menus to make them a little bit bigger so I can actually see my abilities, so you may have to do something like that. Another really important setting I'd recommend changing is how debuffs and buffs appear. So as you can see on the screen right now, hopefully my mouse is visible, I'm circling around what is basically my debuff, and that is a debuff on the party frames, which is really important. If you're playing a class that has to dispel, you have to see the debuffs, you have to see them very clearly. With default UI you don't really see it very clearly, but with PFUI you can see it very clearly, and I'd recommend putting the debuffs bigger and below, so we're not on the same kind of level as the buffs, because when you might mistake them for buffs, obviously put them a bit bigger so you can actually see them. So dispelling in a party is very, very easy for me. As you can see, I've also got this enabled with my raid frames. I'm circling my mouse around the actual debuff there. It's very important to actually be able to see the debuffs in a raiding environment as well. The first thing you're going to have to do in order to enable this is, if you go to PFUI, you can press the unlock button, which totally moves absolutely everything in your UI. What I had to do is move the raid frames so there's a bit of a gap between them, because you can only get debuffs to display either above or below, and obviously you need to kind of see well, I don't think you really need to see the buffs that much in a raid frame. What PFUI automatically does as a paladin, it will show paladin buffs on every single raid member and like a little logo, so you can keep track of who's buffed with what, if you're not using pally power or something like that. So you need to move the raid frames, separate them a little bit. I've also moved my party frames. It's a bit of a faff to move your party frames. As you can see, it's group 1, 2 to 4 here, which is kind of strange, but obviously I've moved them to be more like they are in Blizzard frames, and it's way easier to keep track of like your party when it's going across like horizontal rather than up, because then you have to look all the way up rather than everything being in like the same kind of place. So then after you've done that, you go to Unit Frames, then Group or Raid, depending on what you want to change. You scroll down. Obviously there's loads of settings there you can check out as well, the health bar, width, all this kind of thing, the power bar if you want to know that. But you go all the way down to debuff, and then you select the location. I recommend putting it on the bottom left, because people read left to right, or if you for instance read the Quran, you might read right to left, but whatever. And you probably want to change the debuff size to be a little bit bigger, and you probably want to put like a little bit of a limit or a certain amount on each row so that they don't start overlapping onto different frames, because that'll get very confusing. And same thing here with the raid frames, but obviously I have them a little bit smaller so it's not too big. And again, you don't want like there to be massive like overlapping of your raid frames, because that'll just get too confusing. Another really cool thing about this add-on is Tell Me When is essentially built into the add-on. So as I'll demonstrate right now, if I use short buffs like Holy Shield, maybe bit of Gift of the Naruf, it's gonna work, and stuff like this, or Seal of Righteousness. Basically you've got Tell Me When built into the add-on. I've literally only discovered this while I was actually making the video, so I'm going to start using this a lot. You can, if you go into the settings, you can whitelist and blacklist serve add-on, ones that you don't want and stuff like that. So you may not need Seal of Righteousness, and obviously so you don't want to absolutely clog your UI with every single buff imaginable that you have in the game. That's pretty much all I'm going to talk about when it comes to PFUI. Again, it is a pretty extensive add-on. It will take me quite a long time to talk about through it in massive detail. I would recommend just downloading it and have a mess around with it yourself. It's pretty easy to pick up, and there's loads of great features and customizability with the add-on, which will pretty much suit every single need that you will probably have. So I'll finish the video talking about other add-ons that I have. First one being Pally Power. So this is a pretty essential add-on whenever you're playing a paladin. As you can see, it's already telling me to pop Righteous Fury, which I always forget. Pally Power, what you will normally see, I'm going to show you some raid footage actually of what this raid add-on normally looks like. If I go to action. So I've got some grill footage here. As you can see, the bar is, you know, the add-on goes much further down, and it's because what it's essentially doing is telling you what class to buff with what. And let me go back to my menu. You basically set what class you want to buff with what in this menu here. You click here, so for instance, maybe you've got, you know, a prot warrior, you probably want to put him with Blessing of Sanctuary. A rogue, you probably want to give him Blessing of Sanctuary automatically. Imagine you got a healer priest, just give him bow. Imagine you got a pharaoh druid, probably give him Sanctuary. Hunters, you can give them wisdom or probably want bomb, more likely. They can drop their own threat, so you don't need to give them Sanctuary. Mages always give Sanctuary. Warlocks as well, especially if they're doing AoE and stuff like that. It's important to know that a lot of pets share add-ons with, the kind of buff thing with warriors. So obviously when you buff Greater Blessing of something, it will buff automatically every single class with that buff. Warriors and hunter pets kind of share that for some reason. A lot of the time you may have the same class in a particular raid or a group, but they need two different buffs. So for instance, I'm obviously a prop paladin and I need Blessing of Sanctuary, but if I'm grouped up with a healer paladin, he will probably need Blessing of Wisdom and Blessing of Sanctuary, because he can't really benefit from all the other buffs really. So what you will do is you scroll the mouse wheel on the name here, and what that does is it sets the 10-minute buff. And if I go back to the menu here, if I left click, it will buff me Blessing of Sanctuary, but if I hover over this and then press right click, it will buff a 10-minute Blessing of Salvation. And normally, if you just keep pressing this this bar here where the emblem of justice is, for some, I don't know why it's emblem of justice, if you normally just keep right clicking this, left clicking, it will automatically buff everyone with the correct buff, but then you'll have to hover over the frame and, you know, left click the little mini buffs that you want to add to the raid members as well. A lot of the time you will have to press this refresh button because sometimes it gets really bugged out if you join like different groups or you're swapping groups quite a lot, so always remember to press the refresh button as well. And always have free assignment plugged, because a lot of the time the leader paladin or an officer in the guild is going to do basically all the pally power for you. You won't have to do anything, and he will basically just do all the buffs and set up this menu, because normally you've got like more than one row in this menu for each and every individual paladin. So obviously you can see my name there, but normally there's like more names for each paladin in the group, because obviously when paladins have his add-on installed, it kind of synchronizes together, which is really useful. So a lot of the time all the buffs are automatically set for you. For instance, I'm a paladin, a protection paladin, so normally I'm just giving Blessing of Sanctuary to everyone that I can, or Blessing of Kings, because I'm the only one who has those two buffs. Some rep paladins will have Blessing of Kings as well, and normally all you do is literally press that bar here and you just automatically buff everyone and do a few tweaking with the left click on the mini buffs. The add-on I've got down here is actually Titan panel. The main reason I have this is for leveling, because it tracks your XP gain per hour, but I like it for, you know, showing durability and my performance mainly. I probably only use this for performance these days because I've got everything else with Pfui. But I would definitely recommend getting this one for leveling, because you will be able to track like how fast and efficient you are leveling. So that's Titan panel. Apart from this, I've got Atlas Loot and Atlas. I don't actually use Atlas Loot really, because I only have it enabled to have this enabled, because I think you need Atlas enabled in order for Atlas, you need Atlas Loot enabled in order to unlock more features on Atlas, and I normally just use the Atlas menu, and I'm mostly using the collection menu, you know, to track things and tier pieces, all that kind of thing. So you can see all the loot, and obviously you get instant maps. I kind of know them off by heart by now, so I don't really use this a lot, but obviously if you're new to playing TBC, you will get the instant maps given to you as well. Obviously there I've got deadly boss modes, pretty essential if you're going to do raiding, normally to enable it and you don't really do anything else with it. I've got item rack, which is an absolute godsend add-on, so I'm going to press keybinds. I'm going to show you. So this is my protection paladin gear, and if I press this button here, which is numpad 2, it automatically assigned all of my retribution gear. If I press numpad 4, I should equip my arcane resistance gear. I haven't for some reason, maybe it's page 3, yeah. So this is my arcane resistance gear. When I'm doing heroic Alcatraz, if I'm grouped up with Druid, I can get some pretty good, decent Arcane resistance. So, you know, it equips the Violet Badge and Arcane Resistance Shield, and I have a ring somewhere as well. So yeah, I can set up like buttons to equip all my resistance gear, which is really useful. I also have Omen fret meters, as you can see here, which obviously tracks fret. I think most people use Diamond, I'm not actually 100% sure. Maybe you guys can tell me in the comment section of what most people are actually using on this server, because I do feel like Omen isn't working 100%. So obviously, in order to get a fret meter to work at its best and most efficient and most accurate, you need everyone to be using the same fret meter. I don't really know what everyone uses on this server, so you know, obviously I'd probably recommend getting both and seeing which is, you know, more accurate. Another really useful add-on I have here is called Bank Stack. So I mainly just use this to sort my inventory. So if I mess up my inventory a bit, like this, and there's no bag sorting feature with PFUI for some reason, which is irritating, and no bag non add-on that I found either, but if I type sort, it will do it for me. So yeah, definitely recommend getting Bank Sank. You can also get it to sort your bank out as well, which is really useful. I've also got an add-on called Group Calendar, which basically just enables kind of like a group calendar system, very similar to what it was like in Wrath of the Lich King. Pretty straightforward. So, you know, there's raids here that are set up by the officers and we all use it. Although we might be moving to Discord soon, because that is a little bit more, well, just a little bit easier to use. I have a really useful add-on here called Lightheaded, as you can see, although it has a bit of a conflict with PFUI, so I may disable the quest log with PFUI. Although, I don't know, I don't think I actually found it as a component I could disable. But what it does is it shows Wowhead information automatically. If I ever open a quest like this, it'll automatically tell me like where to go. I can click these for coordinates if I have Cartographer enabled. It is mainly for leveling, obviously. I don't really have leveling add-ons enabled at the moment. For instance, if I want to do this quest here, group quest to kill Neverrock, it will show me just information from Wowhead comments, where he's located, how to solo him, all this kind of thing, in case, so you don't have to like tab out and look on Wowhead yourself if you're stuck with a quest. It's automatically integrated into the add-on. There's a little menu here. What does this do? Oh yeah, that's how do you close it. Another good add-on I have is Postal. You're probably familiar with this add-on. It will open Post automatically. If I go, that's a bit annoying, I'm going to move that. You have to click this to make it green before you can move it, and it's a bit faff because it's, there we go. Anyway, if I go to my post here, press open all, Digixon has given me some large rubies, which I appreciate, by the way, and I think I looted like 17 gold there from the auction house, and sometimes I do like put a lot of auctions on the auction house, so that just automatically opens all. The second you log in, you've got loads of moolah in your bank, which you really cannot complain at. Last two add-ons, as far as I'm aware, if I don't discover any more that I've got enabled. I've got Quest Helper, very simple, helps you with your quests. I think everyone probably has it by now, and also Recount, obviously, which I've talked about just a little bit before. And that is all the add-ons that I have enabled. Apart from, I knew I was going to forget one. There's an add-on called Combat Log Fixer, which I definitely recommend getting, because for some reason on these private servers, it happens a lot on RAF servers that I play and TBC servers. It never happened on vanilla servers that I play, but for some reason the combat log just breaks. After about 20 minutes of playing the game, probably even shorter, the combat log just stops working, it stops reporting, and this means that Recount breaks. Recount will stop reporting DPS and all the other information. So if you get Combat Log Fixer, it will basically fix a combat log and Bob's your uncle, because the only way to fix it previously was to relog, but obviously relogging every 20 minutes is a pain in the backside. You don't want to have to do that all the time, so definitely get Combat Log Fixer to fix that issue. But anyway guys, that's where I'm going to end the video there. My name is Metagoblin. Until my next video, ciao.